Huples cat, my friend from the far north, has been doing some videos on drought, and he asked me to review some of my systems.
Well, thanks Martha. I'm going to heavily use this video and interject.
So knowing that we're coming into a drought, we have rethought how we use our bathroom. When we were without water over the winter time, we found that we could fill a bucket with just like 1.5 liters of water, pour it into the toilet bowl, and it would flush. This particular toilet is a very low flow toilet, so it was just about the same as flushing it. I mean, it was not ounces different than filling up the back to flush. So we installed a low flow toilet. My other toilets in my house take gallons and gallons of water to flush, and this one does not, so that's why we use this toilet. We have decided exclusively that if we ever do run into a problem where we don't have enough water or power, this is the bathroom we're going to use. We have 3 bathrooms. This is a multi-low flush toilet, so this is what we're going to use. We'll haul water in and use this toilet, but this isn't the only option.
It just struck me that that's one of the prepping things, isn't it? Use the back of the toilet system for fresh water. If you are, I would really like it to be treated. It's not potable when you drink it. When it flushes, it's potable. If you leave it for a few days, there's a lot of gunk in one of those, and you're not going to get much water. And yes, it's an emergency survival technique, but don't count on the back of the water. As Martha's doing here, mitigation of use is absolutely essential in a drought. The less you use, the less you need. Speaking of other preps that people always go on about, this is called a water tank. People will claim that you can drink 40 gallons or more of water out of this. They may or may not be right, but they're only right if you're emptying it every 6 months and purifying it and cleaning it. I haven't bothered to do that, and most people have not. So again, if you use water from a cistern like this, bear in mind you're then going to have problems restarting it, but you're also going to have to figure out how to treat the water that you take out, and again, it's going to be very short-term solution water. If you come across a house like this, you can actually get a fair amount of water out of the underground heating system or cooling system that we have in the extension. You would need to understand some basic plumbing, but you can actually get water out of this in a fair amount in an emergency situation. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about day-to-day drought mitigation. I'm not talking about survival in an extreme situation. I'm talking about it's a drought and you need to water your crops, you need to flush the toilet, and you need to drink water as well, and it has to be clean and safe. And it has to be clean and safe for decades with no inputs from outside. Otherwise you're going to be very dependent on society providing you with clean water, and clean water is the #1 thing without which people will die. People have to have clean water. It's more important than antibiotics, it's more important than vaccines. Clean water is the #1 health measure that you can take to protect yourself and your family in grid down and in normal society from illness.
So 2 options. This is a cassette toilet. You guys have seen these before. This actually holds water, so it flushes technically. So you put water in here, you can push this down, it flushes the toilet down. You open a lever, whatever's in the toilet bowl goes into a cassette, which is down here, and you can take that out and dump it manually. So that's something you could use. Very low water, and you can really control how much water you use, and then you just take the byproduct and use what you want to use it for. There's also the old, you ever see the luggable loos? Basically it's a toilet seat that snaps on top of a bucket. That's just dirt in there, so don't freak out. You can buy a toilet seat that snaps onto a bucket, and then you don't even have to use water for this one. You just use the facilities, and then you put some kind of organic material in between each time of use. So sawdust, leaves, anything that soaks up smells. So that's really easy, and then you could take this container once every day or 2 out into the yard and pour it into wherever you've designated your fecal and urine matters to go. You know me, I would use the urine for fertilizer and probably compost the fecal matter and use it as human manure.
In any long-term situation, you need to have human manure. human compost as an integral part of the permaculture that you're going to have to set up. Permaculture is hip and trendy, but the bottom line is if you can't grow crops year in, year out to provide most, if not all of your calories, you're going to be in a serious problem very quickly. And although I was joking a little bit with the pictures, you might want to consider any water source, where's it going, who's pooping into it, etc. What's being thrown into it. We have a fair amount of taps and waste disposal and a lot of things in current society that won't be there in a long-term grid down situation. Really consider that all the water you get that you haven't directly seen fall from the sky could well be contaminated.
So now let's talk about bathing and getting clean. We have one of those Coleman camp showers we've used. Water gets hot. Perfectly great thing to use.
I've got a couple of them and I've used them at the old cottage we had. They work really, really well. They work really, really well if it's hot or very sunny. They're not so good when it's cold. So you need to come up with a different plan. And Martha's plan here is like kind of cutting edge, state-of-the-art plan. I highly doubt I'll ever get around to getting one of these, but I do like baths.
The camp shower heats up with solar energy. The pump one you can heat over any kind of a flame, fire, or gas stove, etc., etc. This is a very cool thing. You see this country stock tank here. It's 110 gallons, and on the end here you can see two different kind of rubbery tubes sticking off the end. I actually have a wood stove set up, a wood stove that goes off the end of this, and it is called a chofu. I'll link that information down below, and I doubt you guys have ever seen one.
Well, I really like the whole concept of this. It kind of reminds me of Prepologic Shea when he did a hole in the ground and created his own outdoor spa bath. You have to have a lot of water to do this, right? And I know Martha knows this, but it's a good system to have, really good system to have, but it's a functional system of having a lot of water. You're having to use a lot of water for a system like this. And of course you can reuse that water on the garden, but realistically speaking, if you can have 110 gallons once or twice a week to bath in, bearing in mind that it will be old school bathing, right? The whole family will be bathing in the same tub of water at separate times. So you want to get in first while it's still clean and warm.
So it's a wood stove surrounded by another metal chamber, and cold water will come in from the bottom tube, go into the wood stove, circle around the burning chamber, and then go in the top tube into the bathtub. And it will continue back and forth, and you can figure how hot or cold you want it by how much wood you put into it, and then by adding cold water into this bathtub. So we use this at my mountain place. We've since sold that, so we're trying to figure out where we're going to put that here. The beautiful thing about this... Oh, shit. Okay, you guys, now it's 3 days later, if you can believe it or not. When I was filming here last, it was 115 degrees, and my camera kept stopping, so this is my third or fourth take just in this section alone. Okay, so anyway, back to the wonderfulness about the chofu with a little wood stove attachment out there. 110 gallon tank. I can heat it up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which means not only can you bathe in there, you could do laundry in there, you could do massive amounts of dishes in there.
For those preppers with 12 wives and a religious cult going, that's a great idea. But for me, what I have is I have two manual laundry machines, one for clothing and one for poop rags. And I also have a solid plan for dishes. The bottom line with this is a lot of preppers will tell you get paper plates and disposable cutlery. And indeed, if you want to throw money away, why not? However many paper plates and cutlery you have that are disposable, you will run out of them. Now you don't have to use water to clean them, but you may end up burning them to try and get rid of them in a prolonged event, and that will actually contaminate your own water source around you and also your own self by breathing it in. So paper plates might have a place in some types of very short duration event, but really Martha's correct. Have a really good plan to wash ceramic plates and stainless steel cutlery. It's a good idea.
Anything that you need a hot water for that don't want to heat up food or water in your house, this would be perfect for, and then you can still utilize the water that's in there.
First thing I thought when I saw this bathtub was, wow, I want one. The second thing I thought was actually it isn't a bad idea. One of the hidden preps that people don't talk about because they don't want to deal with it is pregnancy and grid down conditions or severe drought conditions that go on and on and on. The ability to have 110 gallons of hot water in a bathtub may well be very, very useful if one of your females is pregnant and about to give birth. Don't overlook that. It's actually maybe a really cool idea to get one of these if you've got the money, time and means and motivation, if only to be able to provide somewhere for somebody who's pregnant to lie in whilst they go through childbirth.
So there's the top rubbery thing and the bottom, that rubbery thing, and then underneath is a drain plug. So you can put a hose on it and run it anywhere and utilize any leftover water in there, which is a huge water saver in a drought situation.
Reduce, recycle, reuse. Absolutely critical for anything in an SHTF situation and beyond critical to get ready for drought mitigation.
So you remember in the beginning of the video we talked about toileting and using the toilet on the inside of the house. Well, this window is that same bathroom. This is also where we have a peaked part of our roof. We actually have an attic in here that runs the length of the house. So what we plan to do is put a platform out here with a cistern, 5,000 gallon cistern on top, so we can catch water runoff if we need to from the ceiling or the roof, redirect it into the cistern, gravity feed into the house. Gravity feed is a wonderful thing. No pumps, no manual pumping, no generator. It's a gorgeous thing. So that is a future plan.
Pretty solid. I think it's a gorgeous thing indeed. One of the things I would say is you have to have the space, you have to have planning permission, you have to have the skills, and you have to have the money to build 5,000 gallon or 10,000 gallon cistern systems, and a lot of people don't have it, so then they switch off. I don't care how much space you have, if you're in a one-bedroom apartment, I don't care anything. What you need to do is constantly, as Martha is exemplifying, look at the systems you have, look to improve those systems and look to add new systems on top. You don't just buy a Berkey water filter and then give up. So our water here is mains water, and we treat all the water that we drink and cook with in a Berkey. At the new place it'll all be well water. So one of the things I'm looking at doing is actually figuring out a way of getting rain catchment and pond catchment going as a supplement in case the well fails. So this is our Berkey. If you're going to get one, pay the extra money, get one of these because you can see where the water level is. Because when you pour the water in the top, it should be empty because the water goes through the gravity filters, the black ones, which last 10 years, and goes into the reservoir for pouring. So you can overfill, done it once, and then it all pours out here. But as you can see, this is probably due for a clean, but it's pretty straightforward and easy to clean. You can put 4 of these filters in here. You will then have twice the speed of water, but we have a ton of water coming out of this. As you can see, the flow is pretty good. It will take maybe half an hour to an hour to actually fill the entire reservoir up, but it's not bad. And you can see that it's clear. Thank you. You have pool shock, you have SoDis plants. You come up with an idea about how you might be able to treat petrochemical water if you think that's a major issue in your area. Don't just stop and then give up. You're never prepared, you're never ready for any sort of an emergency. Nobody is over prepared for emergency except for those people who believe in inch bags. They're well over prepared for emergencies and it will kill them.
We had planned on doing that when we had the power outage due to the winter, and now we see even a greater need now that we know we're we're in a serious drought situation. Got everything. Look how much damage. Carrots, everything is just fried. But again, I'm on a well, so we're running the well on this stupid sprinkler setup just so everything gets watered. Luckily, because I'm using the deep mulch method here, I only have to water this garden not even once a day, once every few days, where my raised containers and anything I've got in buckets I'm watering several times a day.
Well, thanks Martha, Old School Prepper, and thanks to Louis Mosaic Master 1 and the Unapologetic Prepper for their help in making this series. I think it's a very important point. It was kind of like a dawning awareness on me. As you see from the garden, without water, it's going to be very hard to grow crops. In SHTF, we need to be growing a lot more crops than what we're doing right now. It's very, very hard to grow sufficient calories to feed you and your families in the now. If you add in SHTF, if you add in a drought, it's going to be well nigh impossible. You don't want to be forced in a position of spending the last few years building up your preps, getting your homestead ready, and then a year, 2 years into grid down, societal full collapse, having to literally move everything and everybody 100, 200, 500 miles away because of drought. If you enjoyed this set of videos, please feel free to give me a thumbs up and a subscription. A comment's always nice. If you disagree with any aspect of it, please explain why. Bear in mind I do allow links to be put in, so feel free to put links in so other people can use the information in the comments to make themselves a better prepper. That's what I'm doing with these videos, is I'm trying to get myself better and better and better. There is no end point to prepping. There is no burnout in prepping. What there is a whole bunch of other issues happening. Prepping itself continues forever. It never ends. Even in grid down, we then have to start prepping. Toodles. This has been Tired Terrier Production 2021.